Okay, in this video module, what we're going to do is take a look at how we can spruce up our script, make it a little bit more interesting by interacting with an entity in the level. To be more precise, we're going to be interacting with a func mover. Okay, this is our way of creating a mover that we can instruct to move around the level. We can bind things to it. The player can jump on it, etc.
Right. I mean, a func mover, editor-wise, has a few properties, but those properties control how it would move once it started moving.
But it doesn't just move by default.
Right. In order to actually get it to move, you actually have to do some stuff through script.
And so here we are in scripting, so what a perfect time to introduce something that we can truly see move around in our level. Okay, so I'm going to continue on with where we left off with our last script. Now, the last script wasn't exciting at all. All it did was echoed out some stuff to the console. And I will continue adding stuff inside my main function. Now, this is bad programming, okay? I'm adding new functionality into my script, but I'm putting it into the main entry point into the script that's going to get called the moment that the level launches. Not good. But the problem is I need to make sure that our viewers, you guys out there, have an understanding of how to define functions and how they work. And problem is that lesson's not going to happen for, well, about 2 more videos from now. So it's better that if I go ahead and just keep adding stuff into main, and then at that point, when we get into talking about what functions are, I'll go back and clean the script up, and I think with that, it'll be a lot easier for everybody to see how functions work. What do you think?
Right, we'll have a better idea of exactly what you can do and how you go about doing certain things through scripting, and then later we'll take a look at using the language in a more advanced manner.
Exactly. So just keep in mind, right now it's not a good idea to make a script where you're going to put every single thing inside the main function. Again, we'll look at how to divide all that up in a couple of lessons from now. Okay, so first thing what I want to do is go ahead and create a new file real quick. We're going to take a look at 3 new events. These are the ones we're going to look at. We're going to look at move to POS, in other words, move to position, wait for, we're going to take a look at wait, and we're going to look at time. And these are the 4 things that we're going to need to move a mover, and I'm just going to call it a mover from now on. It's a func mover, but we'll just abbreviate it by calling it a mover. These are the 4 things that we're going to need to somewhat effectively control moving a mover around the level.
Right, and some of these events directly tie into the func mover itself, whereas others are just something to help you control how the script itself executes.
As a matter of fact, to be more specific, this guy right here ties into the mover. And let's see. I'm trying to make this look kind of neat. So that one's going to move to POS, talks directly to the mover, and time is going to talk directly to the mover. Wait for is going to talk to sys. Remember, we've already done that as well with the print command, or print event. And then this guy is going to also talk to sys. Now, what am I talking about? For those of you guys that are still new to this whole thing and it all seems so confusing, move to POS is event that belongs to a mover, where wait for is event that belongs to system. Well, remember the good old Doom_event script? Let's go back to it. Now, remember I told you guys that it's all broke up into categories. Well, let's start going down looking for, let's first start out by looking for the mover, the func mover category. So cameras, lights, func movers. Aha. So there's the category. Moving on down, move to POS, position. Okay, so this is an event of a func mover. Initiates a translation to an absolute position. So I can give it an absolute, in other words, the true position in the world. Okay, and it's going to initiate a translation of that mover to this absolute position. And this is where I give it the position. So I'm going to say move to POS, and then inside the opening and closing parentheses, I'm going to tell it where. I'm going to give it an X, a Y, and a Z coordinate. And you'll notice there's a few extra things as well. Uses the current speed and time, okay, and acceleration and deceleration settings. By default, our time is 1 second. In other words, every movement that we cause the mover to go through from one position to another, it's always going to take 1 second by default. That is why, if we jump back over here, I'm going to show you guys time as well. You'll notice that belongs to a mover. So if we come back over here to Doom_events, and we scroll on down, and looking, and there it is, time. Okay, would help if it was ordered just a tad bit better, but this will work. So sets the movement time. Sets the time for initiating a new move. So we will look at using this. But there's a few other things that we have to do as well. It's because of the way that the script is going to fire. In other words, we do one line, then we do the next line, then we do the next line. Well, what happens when we say move to a specific location And then if we jump right down and say move to another location.
The second move will actually interrupt the first one.
Exactly.
It's like, all right, we're starting to move. No, wait, let's move to somewhere else instead.
So we need to basically pause the system in a sense so that we complete our first move.
Right, just wait at a certain line until something is complete or happens before going on to the next line.
You got it. And that's where we get into wait for. And you can see that's why it belongs to system. And let's go ahead and jump back over here and go all the way back up to, here we go, system events. And we'll come down to wait for. So waits for the given entity to complete its move. Ah, perfect. And then finally, what if we want to have our entity, let's say, start out on the ground, we move it up in the air, and then we want it to stay up in the air maybe 5 seconds before we initiate another move. That is why we are also introducing wait. So if we come back over here and take a look, here's wait, suspends execution of the current thread for the given number of seconds. So this is in seconds. So there you go. That's an idea of what we're going to take a look at. Now, we need to go ahead and jump back over here into our level, and I need to add a func mover in. So to do this, I'm simply going to come down here, right-click, and let's look for func, and look for mover. So we'll add the func mover. Now what I want to do is go ahead and come over here to Entity, click on Model, and from inside here we'll go to Base, we'll go to Models, we'll go to Map Objects, we'll come down to, let's see,
here we go.
Looking lab. Lab will work. And then up underneath there, we've got loading somewhere down here. Got something specific in mind. Aha, loading platform. So we're going to use this guy right here again. So let's go ahead and tell it OK. And then back over here, let's just go ahead and clone that off so that we get it. And we'll move this on over like such. That's a pretty good location there. Now, let's go ahead real quick. And let's not do that. Let's go ahead. The keys are just too close there. Now I'm going to take and move this guy on down to, I don't know, about right there. Looks pretty good. Mm-hmm. And, yep, I like that. So let's go ahead and jump back over into a top view. So that's all set up nice. Now what I want to do is go ahead and deselect this guy and select this guy right here. And we'll go ahead and get rid of him. And there you go. So now we have a mover in place. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give him a very specific name so that you guys can confirm that I am talking to this entity when I get back over into my script. So to do that, let's go ahead and move this up. And as for name, I'm just going to come over here and, I don't know, call it something like my.
Maybe you want to select them first?
Yeah, that's probably a very good idea.
Let's.
So what are we in the middle of changing? Hang on a second.
Let's take nothing that's selected and pretend we're naming it.
There you go. So my lift. Now that we've got that guy named, now we can start talking to him. Now let's go ahead and figure out where we want him at. So I'm going to jump back over here, and let's say, right now, let's go ahead and clone this guy off. This will make a lot more sense in just a second, so I'll hit spacebar, and move him up to, let's say, nice and high, maybe right about there. Now I'm just using this guy temporarily just to get location information. As a matter of fact, let's do this. We can go ahead and jump back over into context and jump back over here on this temporary file that I have. Let's do this. And we're going to call these keys. So key 1, key 2. Right now we'll just go with key 1 and key 2. Sound good, Logan?
Yep, because that's basically what we want to do. Move up, move back down. And all we're doing here is just sort of just getting an idea of what we want to do before we sit down and start typing out commands, which could get confusing, a little bit complicated. We'll just do in more of a plain English form, like write out a blueprint of what the script is supposed to do. And
yeah, exactly. So yeah, we're just jotting information down. That's going to be very useful in just a second. So we're seeking information. So right now what I'm interested in is where is this guy at when he's on the ground? Where's his origin at? So his origin is right here. So let's just go ahead and copy this information, come back over here into context, and we can paste that. And now let's jump back over into Doom Edit, and let's deselect this guy. Hello. Let's deselect this guy, and then go ahead and grab him and grab his origin information. It's very important to know that this over here will only refresh by reselecting something.
Right, when something is selected, that information gets refreshed. So if you've been working off of the same object, getting positions over and over again, you need to make sure that you deselect and reselect that object before grabbing.
Just moving this guy around, this information will not update over here. Got to be careful with that. So let's grab this, and we'll say that this is going to be key 2's information. Okay, like such. And as a matter of fact, I'm only going to have him move up and down, Logan, but I'm just wondering if it might not be a a pretty good idea, since we know that in the end what we're going to do with this. Let's go ahead and find out a couple more pieces of information real quick. So let's go ahead and switch back over to a top view, and let's see. Let's take this guy and move him on over to about right here. And then again, this is important. Deselect and then reselect, and I'll grab this. I'm going to make this lesson as fancy as I possibly can. Let's go ahead and call it key 3. Sound good?
Yep, because in the third position we need to get to. So basically, even though we're only going to do a 2-key example when we first start moving, the end goal of this map is to have a lift system that will carry you across that gap in the level.
So now we can go ahead and come into key 4. Do you know what the number is for key 4?
It should be the key 3, but -8 in Z. So basically, you can pretty much just copy key 3.
So this guy right here. Except for, we need to make it go back down.
Yep.
Like such. All right, so now that we know where key 1, 2, 3, and 4 is going to be, we're only going to use the first 2 keys. So we'll start out on the ground, we're going to move up to here, then we'll move back down to there. We'll get it more fancy in just a minute. But I just wanted to go ahead and collect all of this data, because what I'm going to do is take this guy, get rid of him. I don't need him in there no more. So let's go ahead and bring this back down. And now that we have an idea of what we want to do, we know what this guy's called. His name is MyLift. Let's make him do something, finally. So let's come back over here. Let's jump back over. And like I said a second ago, we're just going to continue on inside our main function. So first thing is to make him move up and down. So here is how we talk to our entity. We always start out with the dollar symbol, okay? And that's going to specify that we're talking to a specific entity. And what's the entity's name? MyLift. It literally is that easy. And then remember, to cause a move, we're going to say move to position, and then we need to remember the way it looks. It had the open and closing parentheses. If we jump back over here, open and closing parentheses. As a matter of fact, let's move all the way back down into the movers area. So move to POS, open parentheses, closing parentheses, and inside was a vector, which was the positional information. So what does this look like? Well, let's come over here. We're going to move from key 1 up to key 2. So I'll grab key 2's information, come back over here. Here's what it looks like. That's a vector, but I can't just paste it in there like that. That's not going to work. So to hold this together as one unit, if you will, all I need to do is put the single quotes around it. And this is going to cause us to move to this location. So now let's go ahead and jump down to the next line. And on this line, what I want to do is tell the system that it needs to wait for MyLift to finish its movement first. You'll notice as I progress with each line, I didn't really talk about this in the last lesson, but I have a terminator, a semicolon, at the end of every single line. Okay, this is very important that you do that. Now, terminators aren't going to appear at the end of every single line. You'll notice we don't have one up here. We don't have one down here. And there's other commands out there when we start getting into loops, if statements, etc., that also don't have terminators at specific spots. But we will talk about that as we progress further and further into the language itself. Right now, we're just having some fun, making some things happen. So we're going to wait for this to happen. So once this occurs, what I want to have happen next is it to move again. So let's go ahead and grab this, paste it down here, and where do we want it to move? We want it to move back to key number 1, which the only thing is going to be just -8. So we'll just come back over here and put in -8. So really, in Z, that's all we changed. We went up to there, back down to there. Now all I need to do is simply save this out, come back over here, and then F2, make sure everything's good and saved over here, F2, and then map, script start. And as long as I typed everything right, it should pull up without any problem. And look at that. Up, down. Hey. Nice and not nice. It was so fast, we almost didn't get a chance to see it. Hang on. Watch carefully now. You only get a second. Up, down. One second up, 1 second down. All right, fine. So let's put some pauses in there. Like when we first get in here, how about it doesn't start moving right away? How about it pauses for a couple of seconds? Well, remember, back over here, one of the things I said we were going to talk about was wait, and it's a system event. So let's come back over here, and let's do that. Let's tab over and say, System, would you please wait for 2 seconds before we progress into these other lines? So now that's going to pause us for 2 seconds, and then we'll move it up. And let's say that while it's at the top, let's have it wait for, I don't know, maybe 3 seconds at the top before it begins its move back down. And of course, you'll notice I do not have a wait for after this last move to. That's irrelevant because there's nothing else that we're going to do in regards to movement after that.
All right, basically at that point, we're just done with the script. Nothing else happens.
So what's going to happen now when the level launches, we're going to echo these things out to our console. We're going to wait for 2 seconds, move the lift up, wait for the lift to get up there. Once the lift gets up there, then we're going to pause for 3 seconds, then we're going to move the lift back down. While the lift is moving, again, it's only going to take 1 second each time because that is the default time parameter. So let's go ahead and save this out. Let's jump back over into the game, hit the up arrow, relaunch, and let's see if this works. So it should start out with the... So look at that. It's not moving. 2 seconds later, it moves up. It waits. 3 seconds. It moves back down. Hey, that's kind of cool. So now we're starting to get just a little bit more control in there. Fantastic. Now let's go ahead and see if we can do something like pause, move. So in other words, it's pause for 2 seconds. Then let's make it move. And then let's make it pause for 3 seconds. And then let's make it on its way back down. How about maybe take 5 seconds to get down? So it's going to go up fast, but it'll go down nice and slow. Sounds interesting. And this will allow us to also introduce the last thing, which was time, which was a mover event. Actually, it's like a mover parameter. But let's go ahead and jump back over. So everything's good. The only thing right here, to use time, basically before we initiate our move, we simply set it. So we can say $mylift.time, and it's going to take 5 seconds to move to this next position that we're about to give it. So we'll go ahead and throw that guy in there. It's that easy. Save out our script. Come back over here. Up arrow, enter, and here we go. So we better pause for 2 seconds. All right, 2 second pause. Then 1 second up. Good. Pause for 3 seconds. It's going to take 5 seconds to get back down. Oh, look at that. Nice and slow. Excellent. Okay, so now that we've got this going on, we can go ahead and finish this off. Let's make this guy start out. We'll have it pause for like 2 seconds, and it's going to go up. And then it's going to go all the way across, and then it's going to go down. So we're going to, at this point, take advantage of, let's say, key 2, key 3, and then key 4. So I've already got key 2 in there. Let's go ahead and grab key 3. We'll come back over here. So this guy's going to end up being changed to be key 3. So we're going to wait for 2 seconds. He's going to move. We'll go up. I'm no longer interested in having it wait right here, and I'm not worried about that at the moment either. So we moved up. We waited for it to get there. Now we're going to move over. We're going to wait for it to get there. And then we're going to have it move down, which means I need to come over here and grab this key's position. And paste that in there. So all we really need was just the -8. Okay, so does this make sense, Logan, what I've got going on?
Right, basically all we've done is we've taken out some of the test stuff where we were looking at pauses and changing times and replaced that with moving to the rest of our keys.
Exactly. Now, we're back to using our default 1 second time here.
Right,
so
which means no matter how far the mover goes, it's still going to get to that location in a second.
1 second, which means that the long distance that we go over that little pit area that we've dug out in the level, it's going to go pretty fast.
Right.
So relatively compared to the other two up and downs. So let's go ahead and save this. And as long as everything's good, I should be able to come in here, up arrow, and let's take a look at this. So I got 2 seconds. So up, boom, way over, and down. Hey, pretty nice. But, of course, to make things look a little bit better, I may want to go ahead and come back over here and say, all right, it moves up. And then, of course, what am I going to want to do? I'm going to want to tell it time. So $mylift.time, and let's say maybe takes 3 seconds to get over there.
3 to 5. I mean, 5 might even look okay there.
Let's try 4. 5 might be too long. All right, we'll go with 4. And then he gets over there.
Decisions.
And then he goes back down. So let's go ahead and take a look at this and come back in. And here we go. See if this looks any better.
Really, and then you might want to make that last move go back to being fast.
Yeah, exactly, because right now that's going to be nice and smooth, and then going down is going to be real slow. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick, and that is, because you'll notice it just continues using this same time from move to move. So after that wait for, we can come back in here and say, let's go back to 1. So we'll save that out, jump back in real quick, up, execute, and here we go. So 2 second pause, up, nice and smooth, and down, boom, there you go. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump back over here. That is really pretty much everything I wanted to cover in this lesson. Just have something moving around in the level, something that we can truly see, and that something being caused through script execution. And that's what's happening here. I can promise you guys that if we take a look in here, we still have hello world being echoed out because of these first 3 lines that we created in the previous lesson. And you guys have seen all of this stuff here function. So we looked at move to POS, which is available on a func mover. We looked at wait for, which is a system wait for basically a mover to get to a specific position. We looked at the system's wait event, which is to basically wait for a yay so many seconds before we continue on. And then finally we looked at time, which is something we can specify before we do a move to position, and that's going to instruct the mover how fast it needs to move, how long it needs to take to get from one point to another. Logan, is there anything else you'd like to add to this?
No, I mean, that's not only got us up and running with a little bit more interactive script commands, but we've also gotten a good start on how you set up movers in a level.
For sure. Now, keep in mind, like I said, you're not going to want everything to exist inside your main function. We're going to take care of that coming up here in a couple of lessons when we get into functions. So with that, that's going to wrap up this lesson. I always say level. That's going to wrap up this lesson.